Hi, I'm Susan Winter for SusanWinter.net. You know, those of you out there who are emotionally stable, you know what you want, you'd like to have a good relationship, and you are feeling increasingly frustrated, irritated, and confused by the current state of affairs in dating, listen, you're not alone. It is like an avalanche of confusion that keeps coming to people like me, a relationship expert, over and over again. And as I watch this tidal wave that keeps coming at me, I have one dominant takeaway thought. It doesn't have to be like this. You know, we did something unique. Society in the last 16 or so years decided to dismantle relationships and sexuality. We decided to disconnect the context. In doing so, we separated all protocol of behavior, meaning polite social behavior, the rules, and how it's supposed to go. Now, there's nothing wrong with eliminating rules that have confined us. And to have open sexuality without any strings attached as another option that's valid, that doesn't diminish a woman if she wants to do it, doesn't hold a man accountable to just because he had sex with somebody, now he has to stay with her, that's a good option to have on the menu. But what we did in the meantime, many people, they eradicated all social protocol that's in any way civil, humane, thoughtful, or reasonable. You see, something like ghosting, that we now have a word for it. It's a thing. Ghosting is a thing, and it's now commonplace. Things like this erupt, and we all now have a term for it and consider it to be commonplace behavior in a casual hookup culture. But some 15 or 20 years ago, this would have been an anomaly. This would have been the rarity. This would have been a sign of a person who was deeply disturbed. We would have had it like a one-off and like, wow, am I grateful that they played that card and I saw who they were. But now it's considered to be the norm. So I was having a conversation with a new friend the other day, and we boiled it down to something very basic. Dating, at its core, is social interaction. That's it. It's not spectacular. It's nothing that lives in a world of its own. It is a form of social interaction. Yet, in the chaos and confusion of dismantling structures, we eliminated the one thing that makes us fabulous, the one human aspect that separates us and makes us unique and makes us special. We eliminated thoughtfulness, politeness, consideration, and honesty. We took that away. So, how in the world could we then turn around and imagine that this modern paradigm that we're living in could ever reap any kind of reward or benefit? It can't. No matter what you choose to do, no matter what you want to call it, if we as a people, you as an individual and myself included, eliminate correct social comportment in the enactment of this thing that we choose to do, we not only harm that person, we harm ourselves, and the ripple effect extends to everyone until we get a new word for a new thing that is newly acceptable as basically being bad manners. So I'd like to take a whole step back and look at this thing again. And as long as we're here in the midst of the rubble, I'd like to create a sense of infrastructure, and we can do it one person at a time. You might notice that most of your anger and most of your really feeling offended with the behavior of somebody in dating, it's not so much that you were that into them. It's not so much that you die without them. If you really peel back the layers, I'm pretty sure you were offended on the level of being a human being. That however they treated you was so far out of the norm that you wouldn't even have that kind of behavior to a stranger and get away with it. Society would, to a stranger, say that's impolite. I had a long relationship with a Spaniard, and ushered in with the new Constitution was a class that they taught the little kids. So while we're learning how to read, they're learning something called derechos y obligaciones, rights and obligations. And as little kids, these Spaniards learn, I have inherent rights as a human being. My rights are completely mine and to be honored, and they are separate and apart from the color of my skin, the money that my mommy and daddy make, the religion that I have, or my sexual orientation. I am having rights because I am a human being. And along with those rights, others have their rights. And we are to respect them as we'd like them to respect us. That's our obligation. So imagine a culture that has that fused into everything they do. Quite extraordinary, right? But why can't we apply this to no matter what we choose to do, no matter how minimal your interaction? Just, if somebody does something improperly, I would urge you to call them out on it. And I don't mean to victimize them or to, criticize them or to be vindictive in any way. I really like, when I'm doing behavioral corrections, to take a couple of short sentences that synopsize my experience of what happened. When this and this happened, that and I felt like this, and I that doesn't feel right. I don't think that's good. That's not the right way to handle this. And then I quickly go into the alternative version that would have been better. And I lead it back to how that action reflects upon them as an individual. And I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. How many times have you had somebody do something to you in a dating scenario that is so offensive because it's just plain bad manners? And why would we eliminate manners from dating? There's no way we can ever enjoy these new freedoms if we don't superimpose and fuse our humanity into these behaviors. All the pain that we're feeling. I mean, I get this image like we're blind mice just trying to get from point A to point B, and we've got razors strapped to our backs. And without meaning so, any interaction in the dating world, we're going to get nipped, and they're going to cut us, and we're going to cut them. And I see all these wounded people out there, and I see the impact that it's having, and it does not have to be this way. So knowing that change starts with us, starts with the individual, and grows outward, I suggest a new trend. I suggest a trend of being accountable, being honest, being polite, and giving a reason if you don't want to see someone. And I'm not just talking ghosting, but to be as honest as possible. Nobody likes confrontation. Nobody wants to dump somebody or get rid of them. Say you had a sexual experience. You had a taste. You don't feel like going back. Make up anything. I don't care. Tell the truth if you feel comfortable. Give an out that is plausible. Bring in the old ex came back, but at least do the action and honor the human being that you're involved with. Because the less we hurt each other, the less bruised people will be out there for us to date. If everybody is wounded from this behavior, what is anybody's chance of finding somebody who remains intact when you want to meet a partner? So I suggest social interaction to be polite in dating, no matter how we choose to do it in this modern time period, to help us all to create a layer of something beautiful, to add our humanity to the actions that we take. And it can start with me and start with you. And we can do our part. And the ripple effect will indeed happen. Thanks a lot. Susan Winter for SusanWinter.net.